Well, one of my questions I was going to ask is, first of all, why you were supporting Fred, but then why you feel you couldn't support David Scribner for re-election. I think you've addressed that
well,
pretty well.
David will talk about the fact that he sat as the prime shepherd over the pension fund for many, many years. But he's even gone out of his way sometimes to make it difficult for the Board of Finance to get information about the status of the pension fund account. When information would not come our way, we would ask for information and be denied access to it by the fund manager because David would insist that everything would have to go through him.
Channeled through him.
Right? Our pension obligations, we have obligations to our employees to make contributions to their defined benefit plan. And in many cases, we go through a periodic actuarial analysis to understand what the depth of those obligations were.
Right.
In 2006, we were 100% funded in our obligation. Today, we're a little bit under 80% funded to our obligation. Now, I'm not going to, a lot of that's market volatility with the down economy, and I'm not going to pin that on David Scribner, but I can also tell you that in the year 2008, January 1, 2008, we didn't understand what our actuarial obligations were in the plan on the basis of the funds on deposit until 22 months later.
Really?
So not only was it bad news, we didn't know for 22 months how bad the news was. Well, for someone who's sitting on top and is the shepherd of that fund, I think we deserve just a little bit more of attention to that account than the town is getting, because two groups of people are suffering here, right? The future pensioners have the potential for suffering, but also the taxpayers of the town of Brookfield.
Absolutely.
Because even today in our budgets, on the basis of the performance of the last couple of years, I think in this year's budget our funding of the pension plan is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $675,000, give or take a few. It's a round number. I don't remember the exact number, but that's close enough, right, for this purpose, because I know the actuarial required contribution should be about $1.7 million. So we're underfunding. If we're wanting to close the gap, we're not going to close the gap with its current level of funding.
So you're talking about $1 million shortage if we wanted to close the gap right now.
And it would take 15 years of that level of contribution to close the gap. Not 1 year, but 15.
Wow.
Okay. So part of how you get there, again, like I say, you can't blame a down economy on David Scribner, but you have to be able to you have to be nimble and quick.
The information flow has to be timely.
Has to be timely, and when you're sometimes 22 months getting an actuarial analysis from a period close date, that's not my idea of being nimble and
that's unacceptable.
Being nimble and quick.
Yeah.
I also believe that David misrepresents a little bit. He's gotten to be a pretty good politician. He takes credit for things that he has really very little to do with. You'll hear him talk about the town's bond rating increases while he's been treasurer. Well, David has absolutely nothing to do with the formation of the town's budget and the conservatism with which we manage our balance sheet. But yet he'll stand up and take credit for the increases in the bond rating. And he's also quite proud of the fact that we get an award every year for excellence in financial reporting. Remember, I'm talking about the quality of the annual report, not the quality with which we keep the books. Both of those, in my view, are a misrepresentation of his contribution. And it's time after 4 terms in office, 16 years. Gosh, if Fred Stoll weren't running, he'd be unopposed in this election.
Again,
right? So I can't support that. Frankly, I don't think that any politician deserves to go through an election unopposed. But this is a particular case where David Scribner does not deserve to be reelected. The town deserves better, and we have a qualified candidate who's willing to step up and to be a team player with other members of the town administration and the Board of Finance.
And the financial background to go with that.
Absolutely.
I, for the life of me, can't understand why there was a Democrat candidate for town treasurer, and he dropped out of the race. I don't understand. If you were into conspiracy, you'd almost think that this whole thing was planned, but I'm not going there.
Yeah, I don't go there either. So, right. I mean, to me, it's very simple. We have a job that needs to be done. We need someone who who is accessible and has the time to do the job and who's qualified to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Fred, if voters are inclined to vote for you after hearing about your pledges and your qualifications and your experience and your background, how will they find you on the ballot? Because again, you are a petitioning candidate. So how will they find you on the ballot?
They'll find me on the ballot just like with the job I did. I'm an accountant. I deal in the bottom line. My name is on the bottom line of the ballot. Look for the treasurer on the bottom line, and that's where you'll find me.
Okay. Now, also, we're getting close to wrapping up here, but because I have a little commentary I want to just make at the end of the show. Fred, if there was one thing that you would want, or maybe two, one thing or two things that you'd want the audience to take away from tonight's show about your candidacy, what would that be?
The biggest thing I want them to know is I'll be there. You're going to see my face. If you watch any of the Board of Finance meetings, any of the Board of Selectmen meetings, I'm going to be there. I'm going to watch. I'm going to be involved. The controller's going to know who I am. My job is to count the beans, and I'm going to be there. That's what I want you to take away with. A new face, someone that's interested in doing the job.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I just have a quick commentary before we wrap up. For the taping of tonight's show, which again was regarding candidates for Brookfield's town treasurer, I did reach out to David Scribner to appear. He replied by mail that he wasn't able to make it, and frankly I'm at a loss as to why he declined. The advocate believes that every candidate should be accessible and available for tough but fair questioning, not the softballs that we'll probably end up seeing at the regular debates that they usually ask. In addition to the questions that I asked of Fred earlier, I would, for the incumbent, I would add a couple of additional questions based on some of my conversations with people in town and at different meetings that I've attended, and frankly, some of the Board of Finance meetings where, again, I won't go into more detail, but I have been to several of them, and the incumbent has not. One of the two questions that I would ask if the incumbent were here, that according to his campaign material, you continually tout your longtime banking experience and legislative acumen. Here is your opportunity to fully explain your tax difficulties with the IRS and put to rest all the innuendos. So I would give him an opportunity to explain that once and for all. The second question that I would ask, and this gets back to I think what most people are starting to understand is a very important thing here in Brookfield, and that's the pension. As town treasurer, and he is a vital member of Brookfield's town pension committee, he missed 2 of the 4 meetings, formal pension proposals that the 4 companies that were given opportunities to present. He missed 2 of those 4 presentations, those 2 being on June 30th of this year. So he could keep his attendance record in Hartford. He has a perfect attendance record there, and getting back to what Bill Tinsley had said earlier about his other position. Now, of course, as we all know, Connecticut is a blue state. The Republicans are in a pretty heavy minority in Hartford, and I would ask him, since he's in the minority in the heavily Democratic state legislature, and with his political savvy, he would have known that his vote would have meant nothing to the final outcome that June 30th. So the formal question I would ask is, why do you feel your attendance in Hartford to be more important than to not being present at those 2 missed meetings regarding Brookfield's $30 million pension plan? We're going to wrap up right now. Again, I'd like to thank our guests, Fred Stoll, petitioning candidate for Brookfield Town Treasurer, and Bill Tinsley, member of the Brookfield Board of Finance, for appearing on the show. I also want to remind our viewers that our air dates are on Charter Channel 21 on Mondays at 4:30 and Thursdays at 7 p.m. We also post segments from the shows up on YouTube, and you can view them at www.youtube.com/Brookfield Public Advo. We'd love to hear from you, whether it be comments on our shows, ideas for shows, guests on our shows, or topics for future shows that you'd like to see. And you can reach us at brookfieldpublicadvocate@yahoo.com. Again, thanks for watching, and good night.